Hi, welcome to Behind the Badge. I'm Chief Alan Rodbell of the Scottsdale Police Department. With me is Ms. Chris Fasal, our community liaison.
Hi everybody, how are you doing?
So how are you doing?
Hot.
It's hot, yeah.
Yes.
We had a great May. We have nothing to complain about. We had a great May. And even relatively cool at times June, but it's back.
Well, I was very upset because we left for May and went to Italy because we knew it was going to be hot here and it was cold in Italy and it was cold here, and I should have gone in June because we missed all that great weather in May.
That was a great plan, actually.
Exactly.
We did that to you on purpose.
Exactly.
So what's going on? It's the summer months. Things quiet down a little bit.
Kids are out of school.
Yeah, so we need to be careful when we drive around a little bit. Watch the pools, of course, and the kids around the water.
Right.
Never trust. And then as you're driving through the streets, be very, very careful because they are out there.
Yeah.
And my granddaughter got one of those, what do they call them? I don't know, one of those hoverboards. And she zips all over the place, but the last thing you want to see her zipping all over the place on a roadway.
Yeah, so. Exactly. So just keep an eye on them. It's funny because it's coming July now, it's going to be 6 months till Christmas, and you know how those commercials come in and they start singing Christmas songs. The kids are going back to school, but not quite yet. We have a couple months, so be careful out there.
So what's going on with us? We have Citizens Academy back in the fall again. So people are signing up for it now.
Yes, actually I have about 20 applications already.
Okay, so if you're interested, please
file
soon. And then it's going to be on Thursday nights?
It's Thursday nights. It's September 12th through October 24th for 6 consecutive Thursday nights. And then graduation will be on Wednesday night, the 30th, only because Halloween would be on the 31st on the thing. So we're going to move it to Wednesday. So that's the times, 6 to 9 p.m.
Sounds good. So today we've got a very important program, and very timely.
Yes, a lot of this in the news.
We're going to talk about topics that people don't often associate with the city of Scottsdale.
Right.
And some of what we see here in our community. But it's very, very timely and it's appropriate to talk about this.
Right,
and so,
it's worldwide.
Absolutely, and being worldwide does in fact impact us.
Yes, and so it's information that I think everybody has to hear, because it's one of those things that you're like, I didn't even know that was happening, or I didn't even know that. So this is really important that we get this out.
Sounds good. So today we have 2 guests.
Yep, so we're missing a chair here. We're missing one of our guests.
They may be in Italy. But anyway, so enjoying the warm weather.
Yeah, exactly.
So actually, I think it's getting very hot over there. They have some record heat
hot
as
now.
well. Never mind national weather, international weather. Yeah. But today we're going to talk about the topic that is a very serious topic, of course.
Very
and
serious.
We have 2 guests and representatives of our major crimes unit, our persons crimes unit, our special victims unit.
Yes.
Folks are here. I want to welcome both of you to the show.
Thank you.
Sergeant Parrott, we're going to talk a bit to you about overall the unit that you are supervising and all the different aspects of the unit. But before we do that, we'd like to just hear a little bit about you and how you got into the position you're in and came about, because our viewers oftentimes are interested in how people get to the point in their careers that we are in our careers. So if you don't mind talking a little about yourself, tell us about yourself.
Yeah, no problem. Yeah, I'm Andrew Parrott with the Special Victims Unit. I'm the supervisor right now over that unit. I started my career here like everybody does on patrol. During that time I took an interest in persons crimes specifically. I spent a little bit of time after patrol in our domestic violence unit and did some investigations there, and then moved over to the Special Victims Unit, where I was a detective for 5 years, which I then promoted, became a patrol sergeant for a little while, and then now I'm back as the supervisor of the Special Victims Unit.
Very cool. Yeah. It's a great career, and I know you've had a lot of experience in the field you're presently supervising. Tell us about the units that you supervise.
So right now we have 7 detectives in the Special Victims Unit, and we do a lot of investigations. There's a wide range of the things we investigate. We investigate anything from just indecent exposure to all the way up to internet crimes against children, which is what Janice is a part of. She's a part of the task force there. But in addition to that, we would investigate any type of sexual assault, any type of abuse for adult and children. So our detectives have a wide range. They have to have a lot of knowledge base. Where in Phoenix they have units just for kids and they have units just for adults, where here in Scottsdale we cover that entire gamut of those types of crimes, and knowing how to do interviews with children and knowing the protocols with the Maricopa County Attorney's Office. And there's just a lot of things that are involved with that, but the people we have right now in the spots investigating those are probably some of the best detectives we've ever had in those spots.
Yeah, we have a very low persons crime rate here in the city of Scottsdale. We enjoy a very low rate of crime when it comes to violent persons crimes. But we still have some very, very serious cases that occur here in Scottsdale. And we've come off some very serious cases just recently, which I'm very proud to say we've brought to closure. We don't have a lot of stranger sort of sexual assault cases. But we did have one recently, and as a result of using new technologies and investigative techniques and new abilities that we didn't have years ago to actually help us solve crime, we brought those to conclusion. And it's always rewarding to know that, unfortunately something terrible happened here, but we've got the resources and the people that we need to have to bring those things to some sort of a successful conclusion where it stops happening. I mean, we take the people off the street. And so I want to thank you and congratulate you for the work that your unit does, because we have had some serious cases recently, and you guys have done a phenomenal job of bringing them to closure for us.
Thank you very much.
And then like persons crimes, for people to understand that property crimes and persons crimes would deal with anything that involves obviously a person. So murder, sexual assault, robbery,
aggravated assault, something
aggravated
violent.
assault, anything violent against a person. So that's the difference between a persons crime and a property crime.
Property stealing somebody's property.
Exactly, criminal damage.
Damage, right, exactly.
Not robbery, what is the burglary? Would be a property crime.
Yeah. So thank you very much for that. Yeah. So what can you tell us in terms of the workload that you're seeing?
So right now our detectives are averaging anywhere from about 10 to 12 cases that they're actively working. The nice part about each detective. And the nice part about here in Scottsdale is if you have an unfortunate circumstance where you are a victim of interpersonal violence, all the detectives, they work every case. So sometimes at the bigger agencies in the larger cities, not every case gets it to a detective because they look at the leads and they kind of have to triage. Do I have the time to work this one without a lead, or can I work this one that's more, where I can move on it a little bit faster? Here in Scottsdale, it's a very nice thing because if you were a victim of interpersonal violence, your case is going to be looked at by a detective. They're going to look at it, they're going to work it, and they're going to work it till the very end every time. And that I can promise anybody that's watching, or any citizen or someone who comes into our city and has that unfortunate experience.
Yeah. I will tell you, I speak from someone who knows you do just that. Now, who's not represented here today is our crime lab. And I know you work very closely with our crime lab with all the technology available to them.
Yes.
Excuse me.
So the crime lab and the technology we've seen in the last, it's been 20 to 30 years, but just recently has gotten so good. And I remind people that police work is still police work, and that just makes our job as police officers and detectives better. Because when we used to know we can prove you were there, now science can prove you were there, or different things like that. So it takes a great detective and makes the department elite because you have that team that puts it together, the entire case.
Absolutely.
And the thing is like everybody's so happy and like enthusiastic about CSI and all these other things. And I remember a good 20 years ago, Sarge, as well, when we do Citizens Academy, they'd like, oh, it's CSI. It's like, no, they solve a crime in an hour. But now it's just really getting to a point that it can almost come up in an hour. You can get a suspect quickly now because of the technology.
Okay, let's not give anybody that expectation.
Well, we did it in a weekend for six cases.
Absolutely.
Correct.
Science has been phenomenal for us. And speaking of that case, to actually get DNA off of a spent shell casing is unheard of.
Correct.
And our lab was capable of doing that, which allowed us to bring a string of six homicides to closure in a relatively short period of time. So that was phenomenal. But don't let's get that's still a weekend.
We're
okay.
Close. We're close to CSI on
I'll get
TV.
a phone call
We're
saying
close.
you got 20 minutes to get this thing done for your hour. Anyway, so let's introduce Janice, our detective, some more, and talk a little specifically about what the investigations that she does.
So I've worked with Janice as a coworker, and now she works under me in the Special Victims Unit. She's been a SVU detective where she investigated the full gamut of different types of crimes, but she had a big passion when she came to the unit that she wanted to be a part of ICAC. Well, ICAC is considered Internet Crimes Against Children. And the FBI has a task force that they put together with different members of all the agencies in Arizona. It's led by a commander out of Phoenix, and he kind of gets all the tips and disperses them to the jurisdictions where they need to be investigated. It's a very, very tasking job, but probably one of the best I've ever seen do it. She does an amazing job at it. She has to see and listen to things that we don't want to, but she does it because we still have to investigate those types of crimes. So Janice has been doing this for quite a while now. She's very, very good at it. So, and I'll let you kind of talk about what you do.
So let me just welcome you to the show. I do want to make one statement, though. The fifth chair that's missing, we did invite the Bureau to be here. Unfortunately, they had some conflicts.
Correct.
They were very interested in being part of this.
They wanted to come so bad.
And they're very complimentary of what you and Janice and your staff does to support this issue and their efforts. And I know it's a partnership as opposed to, it's a great, not just a working relationship, but it's a true partnership. And so we hope to have them in some other date to come forward and talk.
We can maybe do a second part to this because I don't think we'll be able to get through everything that we need to get through to get out to the audience. So they're really willing and wanting to do that.
So we're disappointed that they couldn't make it, but unfortunately things come up in our business and they couldn't make it. So we'll ask you to kind of like fill in some of those gaps. But before you even start, tell us a little about yourself and your background, because people are always interested in where our officers come from.
Just like Sergeant Parrott, I was on patrol, obviously, for about a decade or so before this. When I moved over to persons crimes, I started in domestic violence, doing investigations there, and within 6 months moved over to Special Victims Unit and started training for all the sex crimes investigations, and then started the training for the specialty in internet crimes against children, which I already had some experience with when Detective Corder was still here, working with her on temporary assignments throughout the course of my patrol time. I would come and work with her on some cases, so it's a topic I'm very passionate about and have been, and is literally the reason I came to the police department to work. And so I'm very pleased to be finally doing what I want to do.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
She's also like, she used to come teach at Citizens Academy as a patrol officer, so she did the patrol officer section, and she was very passionate about that as well, and an excellent teacher. And now, before the show, there's going to be the first scoop to know that Sergeant and Detective, the Detective Sergeant and Detective are going to come to the September class and give an in-depth presentation, so that should be enough to get you to want to come to Citizens Academy this fall. How's that?
That's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. So you heard it here first. So you mentioned Tanya Corder, and so just because this audience won't know, because I don't know if Tanya was ever on our show.
I think she was,
many years
but
ago.
She's retired now.
It's a long time. She retired, and I don't know if she was the first person in the position and created sort of the position.
No, I believe Detective Humiston and Detectives Kinder were first
who are still with
in
us.
our department. They're still with us.
Okay.
They're working in a different unit now. And then Tanya took over the role and actually went over to FBI Task Force for several years, working with them specifically to get trained up, and then came back to Scottsdale.
And when she retired, then or when she moved on to a different position in personnel,
she was in personnel for a while.
You went ahead and moved into her slot. And I think by the time we're done, I want people to know just how challenging and difficult this position is in terms of the things that you do. And my hat's off to you, because I can really appreciate kind of what you go through, and hopefully we as an organization support you and constantly kind of check in to see how you're doing. I know I used to do it with Tanya, but I haven't done it with you yet, just to see how you're doing, because many years ago I did child abuse investigations. I know how difficult they can be after a while, but what you do is extremely challenging. And so I'm going to let you talk about that a little bit, as long as you're comfortable talking about that, so people understand the role you play to keep our community safe.
Sure. We're fortunate on that role. One of the things that our Arizona ICAC task force does is they do a sort of a mandatory wellness training, and they do it, it's every other year, but there's offerings throughout the year that you can go to, but the mandatory one for the entire task force locally, we all come together, and there's usually some sort of activity or ways to try and combat
the stress
that you're having, the difficulties that you may be having with the cases. So we're fortunate in that as well.
Very cool. So tell us about the job.
So the job itself, I mean, it started back in 1998. To give you an idea of how much it's progressed over time, obviously it didn't start as just internet crimes against children, because you're thinking about how pedophiles worked and how they traded material through the regular U.S. mail was the original advent of these cases, and sharing, if you will, for lack of a better term, I'm going to call them sex abuse images rather than child pornography, because I don't believe that there is such a thing as child pornography. I think they're all child sexual abuse material. each picture and each video is essentially a crime scene being documented of a victim being assaulted in some way.
These are
And
very
so-
young children as well, correct?
Oh yeah, and it's getting younger and younger every year. So you think back to 2007 when the first smartphone came out, and now almost every child has a smartphone going down to elementary school level. And once you give that smartphone to your child and you're not watching them, and they have a data package on it, you have no idea what they're accessing and what they're doing or who they may be being contacted with. And then upstep it to all the gaming systems that are out there, and you have Xboxes and PS4s, PS3, and all the other series of them. During all of these, people are also contacting children on those and starting grooming activities and luring, if you will, to try and see if they'll meet in person. And so those are the types of things that we look for, and a lot of the cases that come to us. So our clearinghouse throughout the country is the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, and they generate what are called cyber tips. And so the cyber tips get created through any type of electronic service provider, whether it be a big one like Yahoo or Google, down to applications like Instagram, Facebook, things of that nature, Snapchat, it's a big one. So when they deem that something might be of child sexual abuse material, they flag it, the account gets shut down, and then the tip gets generated and then gets disseminated throughout the country to where they think that jurisdiction is. And then that's how it gets to me. It goes through Commander Thorley, he's commander for ICAC Task Force, but Sergeant Thorley at Phoenix PD, his unit vets those out to the entire state. And so of all the agencies in the state of Arizona, we're within the top 5 for the number of cyber tips that get generated in our state.
I suspect this is just a tip of the iceberg.
Yes.
Because I don't know if we're dealing with the dark web. Or
We haven't even begun to deal with that in our department because we just don't have the resources to do it right now, time-wise and staffing-wise. But that's out there as well. So when you look at the different internet crimes against children, I guess investigations, you have reactionary and then you have proactive. And right now we're really focused on reactionary because that's what we have time for, because the tips come in and then they also come in through police reports of citizens finding things on their kids' phones or seeing some sort of strange behavior, and they'll generate a report for us as well. So then you can go into the proactive approach, which is like, think back to the day when Napster started and people were trading music, or LimeWire and trading music files. Now there's file sharing programs where all they do is trade this material of child sexual abuse material, and that's a whole separate section we can get into, and then the undercover chatting and going onto the dark web as well. And so we have all the ability to do all these things. We just don't have the capability right now to jump into them all.
And this would include like most people probably are thinking, oh, the sexting with the teens and stuff like this. And that is a part of it.
Absolutely.
And then people meeting a suspect and maybe being snatched or whatever and actually taken. So that happens. But we're talking about little kids that have not the ability to rationalize this might not be wrong, or this, you know what I'm saying? They're just being taken advantage of. So it's as a detective, it's got to be very disturbing to know that there is a lot of evil and sick people out there.
And you have to train your mind and going through the trainings to have, I can't call it an understanding, but rather maybe an acceptance perhaps, that these offenders, some of them really don't think they're doing anything wrong. They think it's perfectly okay what they're doing, that's their preference, and it's absolutely as normal. Citizens know that, but whether it's mental illness related or whatever the case may be, a lot of them really don't think they're doing something wrong.
Or they have been maybe abused when they were younger, correct?
Yeah, and I mean, it's probably less than 5% of people that were abused as a child go on to become an abuser. It's a very, very small percentage. But the majority of them just really don't think they're doing anything wrong, and they're doing what they want to do. Or it started as just a simple pornography addiction as an adult, and then eventually you're looking at adult pornography and it's not doing anything for you anymore, and you up your ante and start looking at other things, and then it slowly it's an addictive behavior.
So are you comfortable talking about some of the techniques that you use in the office to attract people that are behaving this way? I mean, I don't want to put you in a position where you don't feel comfortable.
No, we do different things. There's different, throughout the task force in the Valley specifically, like Tempe and Mesa, Chandler, they have their own units. Phoenix has their own unit. And so they have a little bit more capability to put together details, special details where we'll focus on just proactive types of activity, whether we're on a computer or smartphones or whatever, we're on applications, websites, making profiles, whether we're pretending to be children, whether, I have accounts where you're a 12-year-old boy or you're an 8-year-old girl or you're a mother with children and you're trying to get out some strange conversations and see what happens. And people amazingly will contact you. And one of the best examples I could give in a training that I had for a dark web undercover chat, everybody, there were maybe 30 of us in the room and we're all on the same section of the dark web talking to people, and one of the students brought up and said, aren't they going to notice that suddenly there's 30 new people? And then they're like, no, they're just not going to care. And they literally do not. And they still will start sending you pictures of themselves that are inappropriate, asking for things, wanting to do meets and things of that nature. So like right now this week, Tempe is doing a detail, and they've already got this week 15, in the last 2 days, 15 arrests of subjects looking to interact with minors in person.
Yes.
Yeah.
And the thing is I remember Tanya came one time and talked at a group that we had, the Citizens Academy alumni, and I just want parents to know that they need to pay attention to what their kids have on their phones.
They do.
I know your child might be good and you trust them, but you can't trust somebody that they're in contact with or that phone.
Yeah, especially when you have the applications where you can friend people, and a lot of the children today, they'll friend people, they have no idea who they are. And so I always, advocate for parents to make sure your children know the person in person that they're friending. Make sure you know who the person is that they're friending. If you don't know who their friends list is, then they shouldn't be on the friends list. And so every parent should have a safety contract with their child, so their child feels comfortable to say to them, hey, today mom, this person contacted me online, we're asking really strange questions, and be able to give them their phone to say that this isn't okay, and know that they're not going to get in trouble because they didn't do anything wrong, that it came upon them. And so to be able to do that with your child is really important. And there's things like that online. They can search for, internet safety contract, parent-child, and netsmarts.org is an amazing organization, and it's netsmarts with a Z at the end instead of an S. And they have all sorts of tutorials on their website and resources and tip sheets and video presentations and stuff for as young as kindergarten all the way up to adults and communities. And so they're wonderful. Not My Kid is another excellent organization based out of Scottsdale, which is fantastic. They do a lot as well for social media and education for internet safety and stuff as well.
You can't help something if you don't know it.
Right.
Yeah, and the thing I was going to add to that is that sometimes people don't realize that certain conversations with children over the Xbox or over a cell phone or over an app, those are illegal conversations. I know it's just talking, but if you're asking children, they're children for certain things or saying certain things, you can't do that. So I want to let parents know that if you come across that, call us, give us a chance to investigate it, because we could stop something before it progressively gets worse.
Or somebody is victimized.
Yeah,
Right.
so we investigate those just like we would investigate if you all of a sudden saw something and went and were shocked and knew you had to call. Because a lot of people would see something to know, and I have to call the police now, but they may read something and go, I don't want to waste their time. No, you're not wasting our time at all. I mean, that's what we do. That's what we look for, and we'd rather find it early than too late.
So will parents call you directly, or say call 911 and have a street officer come out first?
They can do any of the above. They can contact special victims or PD direct, or if they want to do more anonymous and don't want that information, they don't want us contacting them directly, they can contact the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. They have a cyber tip line as well online. They can go online and do it, or they can contact 1-800-THE-LOST. These are all options for them if they don't feel comfortable with just coming to the police, or they're fearful, or whatever the case may be, but at least report it, at least get it out there. And sometimes we get a tip from a parent, and then we end up getting a tip from NCMEC as well from the provider. So sometimes
and we've made some big cases where we have a small tip, and we have a small tip, and then all of a sudden we can match it to something else, and now those small tips become a big case that we can put together.
So maybe perhaps you'll provide a list of phone numbers
Yeah,
and
if you can
contacts,
give
and
that,
we'll
we'll
put
put
that up
it
at the
on
end
the
of the show.
thing. Yeah.
Sure.
Sure.
Perfect. Thank you. So what other tips do you have for parents which they be looking out for?
If their kids are spending more time alone, they're starting to get withdrawn, they see the behavior changes, those are all like pretty adamant signs of grooming that may be happening. If they're spending more time online, don't want to give up their phones, argue with them about less time on electronics, whether it's iPads, gaming systems, phones, what have you. That kind of a thing. Kind of look out for that kind of stuff.
And we've heard these kinds of cautionary notes before in other conversations with other members of the organization. We do want to caution parents that investigate, be aware, but there's also changes in behavior as kids go through
Maturity,
stages of life,
absolutely, yeah.
and not to interpret all of that necessarily being this,
Right.
but certainly a reason to
But
kind of look and
Yep.
go a little further and investigate and see whether this is just normal adolescent growth and behavior, or is this really something behind this, what's causing this. And it could be
Yeah.
a number of issues that's causing this,
Yeah.
but not to panic, but to stay involved. So we hear those kinds of changes, and
For sure.
to make sure it doesn't necessarily mean this, but it may mean something, so pay attention.
Have
Perfect.
limited, other recommendations we tell parents are to have limited time on electronics, like, by 8 o'clock, no more, give me your phone. Don't allow kids to bring their cell phones and charge them in their rooms. Any of their electronics should not be in their bedrooms. They should be outside in a common area. So the screen's not facing a wall, but facing the open room. They shouldn't, not hiding anything type of a situation. So the parents are always aware of what their children are looking at.
Right.
Gaming systems, I would caution parents allowing their kids to use headphones, having conversations, because then they don't know what's being said. They can't hear it. So just keeping their kids unplugged in that way and letting
And they
it just
need to
air.
know that even if your child is smart or you're a very good parent, this still does happen to good people.
Sure.
100%.
Okay,
Yeah.
so don't feel like, that's why we're trying to get this message out, because good kids get caught up in being a victim.
Yeah, and the public and the media are really coming on board recently and understanding this. There's a movie that just came out it's appropriate for probably a teenager to watch, called Searching. I don't know if you guys have seen that, but
No, I'm not.
it's about this exact thing where a teenage girl has her phone and goes online, and then one day she's gone and dad just has no idea what could have happened, and then it's him tracking with law enforcement trying to find her, and there were so many apps and things that she was involved in that he just
No idea.
didn't know.
Actually, I think I saw that advertised. So that's at the theaters, right? That's
I
not
think it's either coming out, but I thought there was somewhere. I think you can buy it early on iTunes or something
Oh,
like that,
okay,
if
very
I
cool.
recall. So.
very cool.
Yeah.
I just want to take a chance to say thank you
Yes,
to
it
both
goes
of
so
you.
fast.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and
So
thank
much
you
information.
and thank you for the work that you guys do. It's not the kind of work that everybody can do, and you guys do it, and you do it so well. And I'm so appreciative of that. And the reason why we have such a safe community is because of how seriously we take these things and how quickly we address these issues and get on top of it. I know we have a super major case right now that is in the press and involves quite a large network of folks. And just the fact that we're working on that, as hard as working on that, I just want to take a moment and say thanks.
Thank
for
you
being our
guys
guests.
so much
Thank
for
you.
coming.
Thank you. We appreciate
Absolutely.
being here.
That's another month.
Quickly.
Great, really fast. So great to be here. I look forward to everybody seeing you next month. And until then, just be safe and be careful. Thank you.
Have a
very
great
much.
summer.